The Nittany Lions and the Buckeyes are set to tangle in a big-time showdown on Big Noon Saturday. And the stakes, well, they're at an all-time high.
From LA to Piscataway, all Big Ten all year long. This is Big Ten 10.
I think that this very well could be a Big Ten championship elimination game. If Ohio State loses, it would be their second conference loss of the season. We all know that they lost to the Oregon Ducks back on October 12th. 2 conference losses eliminates you basically from the Big Ten championship game. When you look at it from a Penn State point of view, yes, they would only have one Big Ten loss, but it would be a head-to-head loss against the Ohio State Buckeyes. We know the Buckeyes have to play Indiana a little bit later in the season, but it certainly puts Ohio State in the driver's seat if they're able to get a head-to-head win over the Penn State Nittany Lions. And then you move on to the head coaches. James Franklin and Ryan Day are a combined 5-23 against top 10 teams in their careers. I think whoever wins this game, whichever head coach wins this game, will certainly get a boost, maybe get some critics off of their back. Like when you look at this thing from Ryan Day's perspective, of course, a couple of weeks ago, we already mentioned it, had that loss to the Oregon Ducks on the road. You had a bye, 2 weeks to think about it, and then you have what some people called an inexcusable performance against Nebraska, playing the way you played. There's a lot. Some people in Buckeye country think the sky is falling a little bit after these last 2 performances. People saying that this Ohio State team was destined to win the national championship this season. A convincing win and looking good doing it against Penn State would get a few of those monkeys off of the back of Ryan Day. And we all know the story by this point. With James Franklin, ever since 2016, he has not been able to beat the Ohio State Buckeyes. He hasn't had the greatest record against the Michigan Wolverines either. Those top teams in the Big Ten, he has not been able to get over that 10-2 hump. And when I look at Penn State and I think about this team this year, this is the opportunity. If not now, then when for Penn State? Because now I know Ohio State has certainly loaded up for a run this season, but I think that Penn State has also done the same. Like you look at the personnel on this roster. You look at Drew Allar at quarterback. You look at Katron Allen and Nick Singleton being in the program now for a couple of years. You look at Tyler Warren, one of the best, if not the best tight ends in all of college football. You look at the defense that is doing their thing once again with Abdul Carter, Dennis Sutton, a really good defensive line, and just a really good defense overall, a more creative and a more dynamic offense. This seems to be a situation, this seems to be a year where everything is coming together for Penn State. And it's that opportunity for them to prove that they can take that next step against some of the big boys in the Big Ten. I think scoring points in this game will be very, very difficult. The Buckeyes and the Nittany Lions, that's 1 and 2 in the Big Ten in total defense. This is as good as it gets on the defensive side of the football, certainly. Only the Indiana Hoosiers are better than both of these teams against the run. I will say this as it pertains to the run game. We all know about the running back tandems, Allen and Singleton for Penn State, Quinshon Judkins, Trevion Henderson for Ohio State. They're 2 of the best running back duos in the country right now. If one team can have success running the football, if they can run for 130, 140, 150, something like that, I think that gives them a big-time leg up considering how difficult it will probably be running the football against these defensive fronts. It allows these teams to create some balance where otherwise that balance might not be there. Both of these quarterbacks are going to have to play extremely well. I know it's cliche. Hey, whichever quarterback plays better is going to win the game. But when the run defenses are as good as they are right now, it really puts the magnifying glass on quarterback play. Will Drew Allar, more on him in just a minute, will Drew Allar or Will Howard make more plays late in the football game? Because I think that this is going to be a close game. Who will make more big plays late in the football game to earn their team a victory? Let's talk about that aforementioned Drew Allar. The first big storyline in this game is that 15 in blue and white appears to be all in. The media had some practice availability on Wednesday, and there were many reporters out there, and there were many videos posted online. Drew Allar looked pretty good. It looked like business as usual for the starting quarterback of the Penn State Nittany Lions. Now, James Franklin is still saying that it is going to be a game-time decision. That appears to be coach speak, right? You look at him in practice, he's planting the foot, he's throwing with a lot of confidence, he's going through running drills certainly as well. So right now as we're looking at it, it appears maybe last week was a tweak. It takes a week, to kind of get on the mend. He goes to practice, gets that thing loose, and he'll be ready to go. But will he be 100%? Or is he battling through this injury? Is he going to be at 70%? Is he going to be at 80% throughout this game? Is he going to be full go? Because you need a full go Drew Allar, in my opinion, to be able to beat a team like Ohio State. Because when you have Allar at quarterback, as opposed to having Bo Pribula as your main guy, it opens up 100% of your playbook. Last week we saw Bo Pribula play really good against Wisconsin, but I think that this offense is going to operate at its full potential when Allar is out there making plays and when you can bring in Bo Pribula in package type of settings. We talked about how difficult it is going to be to run the football in this game. I think Ohio State has some advantages, borderline big advantages, when they open up the air attack, and I'm curious to see if the Buckeyes will truly unleash the pass game in this game with Will Howard. We saw he can throw the football very efficiently. He can be very confident. He can certainly push the ball down the field. We saw that in that game against the Oregon Ducks. But here's the thing about the pass game. This Ohio State offensive line is a big-time question, and they need to hold up. Like, you saw their performance against Nebraska. If that's the performance you put out against them, just imagine when these dudes and dogs up front for the Penn State Nittany Lions come calling. This is a big test for a patchwork Buckeye offensive line right now. I think Penn State may be able to eat and eat often up front. Now, Josh Simmons out. That was before the Nebraska game. Josh Simmons out at left tackle. Some say their best offensive lineman, out for the remainder of the season. You enter Zen Mikulski. He gets injured at the end of the Nebraska game. Ryan Day says it's trending that he's not going to be able to go. So now you've got musical chairs on the Ohio State offensive line, which is music to the ears of Tom Allen and this entire Penn State defense. Now, there's going to be a domino effect, right? Because the rumor is that you saw this late in the game against Nebraska, that they moved Donovan Jackson, an all-conference guard. They're going to move him out to tackle. But then what happens in the middle? Right now, once you move one guy one place, what happens in the backfilling options in that place? I think no matter which way you slice it, Ohio State is going to have a big-time challenge on their hands against this Penn State front. I was watching Big Ten Network this week. Got to give credit to Urban Meyer, former Ohio State coach, on this one, and he kind of talked about this. And I agree in this instance. I think he said that, hey, let's see a little bit more quarterback run from Will Howard. We've seen Will run the football, but there hasn't been maybe as much designed quarterback run as we thought that there would be. Now, of course, when the quarterback hands it off to a running back, you're losing a guy. The defense is able to bring up, of course, all 11 guys to defend against the run. But if you have quarterback run, that allows you to bring in an extra blocker. And considering the situation that is happening with the Ohio State offensive line and how they're shorthanded, they might need an extra blocker. And now if you can involve some read stuff, some RPO stuff, instead of say, hey, we got to get a hat on a hat every time, we got to worry about our blocking assignments, now we can read Abdul Carter. Now we can read Deni Dennis Sutton. Now it's maybe not so much getting a hat on a hat, reading zone blocking, doing whatever you do up front for Ohio State. Now it's up to making the right read. He crashes, you pull, he stays, you give, stuff like that. And it's up to the decision making to get this run game going a little bit as well for the Ohio State Buckeyes. I think the ability of Ohio State to hold Penn State off in pass protection and let some of these deep concepts in the route tree develop could be a swing factor in this football game. If you can move the pocket a little bit to help out your offensive line, to let these routes develop a little bit down the field. I think that's going to help some things certainly out as well, because if Penn State is able to get home, if they're able to wreak havoc like Nebraska was able to do against Ohio State, I think that could really halt what the Buckeyes are going to do in the throw game. And if Ohio State can't generate some of those explosive plays down the field in the pass game, the run game, right? Not sure if that's going to be great in this game. Now all of a sudden you're in a situation like you were last season. So Chip Kelly might have to get a little bit creative on how he calls things in the pass game to help out his pass protection. Now, we talk about Chip Kelly and what he has to do. Let's go to the other offensive coordinator booth. Let's talk about Andy Kotelnicki, because it is getting hot. It is going to be spicy in Andy Kotelnicki's kitchen, because he is going to be cooking everything in the cookbook. He is going to be emptying out all of the bag of tricks that are in there. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, appetizers, desserts, everything's going to be on the menu. We all know about the creativity that Andy Kotelnicki has had and how dynamic that this offense now has become with him as the offensive coordinator. Empty out the bag of tricks. Ohio State is going to see it all. I think what Andy is going to do with his creative formations, with his creative motions, Todd Blackledge on the broadcast of the Wisconsin game says it's a lot of window dressing. It's a lot of different people in a lot of different places. It's a lot of motion when you just run the football up the middle sometimes for a couple of yards to see if they can get the eyes of the defense going another way. Jim Knowles has to have this defense disciplined, because I think Ohio State is going to see a lot of different formations. They're going to see a lot of different personnel packages throughout this game to get Ohio State off balanced. Now, when you look at Penn State and some of the matchups that they have on offense versus the Ohio State defense. Now, we saw Ohio State secondary give up some big plays in that Oregon game in the throw game. But here's the fact of the matter. Penn State doesn't have Tez Johnson. They don't have Evan Stewart. They don't have Trayshawn Holden. They don't have that type of talent on the outside. With all due respect to the Julian Flemings of the world, to the Liam Cliffords of the world, Amari Evans and Harrison Wallace, I'm not sure if they have the talent advantage that Oregon did going down the field. So, Andy Kotelnicki's ability to scheme some things up, to scheme up some plays down the field with the creative formations, with the creative packages, with motions, with different route combinations, to be able to confuse Ohio State, to get over the top, to create some of those explosive plays, I think is going to be big in this game, because I think if you play them straight up, now Penn State that's not their base offense is playing straight up. They're very creative. That's the whole point of this segment and this storyline right now. But I think if you do play straight up and fairly traditional, Ohio State, I think, can contain some of these big plays, even though Penn State has done a better job getting down the field a little bit more, certainly this season. We talked about the wide receiver matchups. I'm really interested to see what happens with Tyler Warren in this game. I kind of say it every time I talk about Penn State. Need to get Tyler Warren going. Defense needs to clue in on 44 in blue and white. Now, I think Ohio State has a guy that's going to be able to lock in on Tyler Warren and keep an eye on Tyler Warren, and that can maybe match up with him in this game, and his name is Caleb Downs. I think Caleb Downs can be effective coming up to stop the run. I think that he can be effective certainly in the throw game. I think he's a guy that has the size, he has the speed and the skill to be able to match up with a tight end like Tyler Warren. Tyler Warren is a guy that is head and shoulders above those wide receivers that I mentioned in terms of the pass game. They are going to Tyler Warren right now. You look at the receptions, they're going to Tyler Warren a lot more than they are those receivers. So Ohio State, if they can limit the amount of targets that go to Tyler Warren, that could certainly play into their favor. But if Penn State, once again, it all comes down to this creativity. It all comes down to this scheme. They get Tyler Warren going, that is certainly a notch in their belt. Man, I am so excited for this game. I might be in the minority here, but I'm kind of glad this game is at big noon because I don't feel like waiting to watch this game. I want to wake up, I want to go for a morning walk, and then I want to watch some Ohio State, Penn State football. All right, folks, it is prediction time. I think there's something different about the Penn State Nittany Lions this season. They've got that fight in them. I think they've got that dog in them. We've seen them be resilient multiple times this season. We've seen Drew Allar take a step up as a vocal leader on this team, and he just seems like he's in a spot right now where he's not going to take no for an answer. Right, coming off of an injury, this is a potential legacy warrior type of situation in front of all of the fans and all of the crowd that you know is going to be rocking over there in Happy Valley right now. I think Ohio State is going to hit some big plays in this game. It's up to Penn State to see how they are going to respond from some of those big plays. And just, we've seen Marvin Harrison Jr. the last 2 seasons just absolutely go off on Penn State. There is some potential for the receivers to do that, but Penn State needs to be able to limit those plays. I think the Nittany Lions can play fairly well. In fact, I think they can play really well against this Ohio State front. I think the Nittany Lions are going to eat. I think they're going to eat often up front against this patchwork Ohio State offensive line. I think Penn State does just enough, and they're the ones that get over the hump. I've got the Nittany Lions 23 and the Ohio State Buckeyes 21. Folks, this is going to be a fantastic football game at Beaver Stadium on Saturday afternoon. That's what I think. That's my prediction. What about you? Leave all of your score predictions in the comments below. I'm Big Ten Ted. This is going to be a good one. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks for watching Big Ten Ted, where it's all Big Ten all year long. Make sure to like the video to spread the word of Big Ten Ted to the masses, and subscribe to the channel for updates on Big Ten content that drops every day.